Okay, before we start the actual session, somebody left me a question that I thought I should answer. So who is Kuan Yin, and why is Kuan Yin's statue instead of the Buddha in this hall? Who do we pray to? Okay, good question. So Kuan Yin is seen as either the Buddha or the Bodhisattva of compassion. Okay, so there's different ways you can see Kuan Yin. One is as a person, because you know there's a story about somebody who was Kuan Yin, who was a princess, and she went through all these difficulties and so on. So one way to see her is as a person who became a bodhisattva. And that way of seeing her can be very inspiring, because then we think, you know, if she did it, we can do it. Okay. The second way of seeing Kuan Yin is as a manifestation of enlightened qualities. So here, instead of seeing her so much as a person, but she's a manifestation of the kind of qualities that we want to generate in ourselves, and the kind of qualities that we respect in others, so that they can lead us to awakening. So here, when we think of Kuan Yin as a manifestation of qualities, it's kind of the way an artist expresses their inner feeling in form, in a picture. So here, it's like the Buddha's qualities get expressed in the form of Kuan Yin. Okay? And there's many different forms of Kuan Yin. This one is thousand-armed Kuan Yin, or thousand-armed Chenrezig. There's two-armed, there's four-armed, there's, you know, Kuan Yin of the, of the sea, the southern sea. There's many different forms. And that indicates that a Buddha's enlightened mind can appear in different forms according to the needs of sentient beings. Okay? So, and these forms symbolize different things as well. So, especially with a thousand-armed Chenrezig, you know, this one here, if you think how we often sit most of the time, okay? What does this body language signal to you when somebody's talking to you and they stand like this, or they sit like this? Don't come near. Yeah, don't come near. Or, you know, I'm not sure I want to believe what you're saying or relate to you, or, you know, we're protecting ourselves, or we're showing strength, okay? Kuan Yin, like this. Yeah? When you sit like this, and you sit like this, yeah, do that. Sit like this. How do you feel? Okay, now go like this. How do you feel? Very different, don't you? You know, Kuan Yin's completely open, reaching out her arms to benefit sentient beings. Yeah? So you can see through the physical manifestation what kind of qualities a bodhisattva has. Okay? Then the third way to see Kuan Yin is as a manifestation of our own mind when it becomes a Buddha's mind. So it's like we're seeing ourselves in the future when, after practicing and actualizing the path, we become a bodhisattva or a Buddha. You know? Then we too can appear like Kuan Yin. Okay, so there's different ways of relating to Kuan Yin. In terms of the person's question, why Kuan Yin is here in the center instead of the Buddha, okay? I think that has to do with the way they design the altar. There's many Buddhas up there. I believe those are the 8 medicine Buddhas, one of whom is Shakyamuni Buddha. And I can't see beyond His Holiness there. But yeah, that's okay. But there may be another Buddha statue there in the middle. Yeah. So in Buddhist monasteries, we always have on our altar a figure of the Buddha. Yeah. And then they added Kuan Yin. And you see the 11 heads of Kuan Yin? The very top red one is Amitabha. So I think Amitabha Buddha. And that's the name of the center too. Okay. And so in terms of who do we pray to, who do we meditate on, all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, okay? We may be attracted to one form or one manifestation more than another, and then we can focus our prayers and practice on one more than another. That's perfectly okay. But we should understand that all the Buddhas have the same realizations, okay? So it's not that one Buddha is higher and more spiritually advanced than the other one. All of them have completely eliminated all afflictions and obscurations from their mind stream and generated all the good qualities. So if, when you make an offering to Kuan Yin, yeah, you should think, actually, I'm offering to all the Buddhas. Yeah. Okay? Yeah, so the different Buddhas that, you have Manjushri. In the Tibetan tradition, Manjushri's holding a sword, and then a lotus flower with the Prajnaparamita text. So you can see that symbolizing wisdom. Manjushri has the same realizations as Kuan Yin, but is manifesting that aspect of wisdom, with the sword that cuts down all ignorance, and the Prajnaparamita text that reveals the teachings on the ultimate nature. Okay. Now, rebirth. So now we're going back to Volume 2, to the Foundation of Buddhist Practice. Yeah, so we got introduced to what the mind was in Volume 1. And that introduction actually continues in Volume 2, but we're not going to go through all of it. If you have Volume 2, Chapter 7, Mind, Body, and Rebirth, then we start talking about sentience, the mind, the brain, and those kinds of things, and the nature of mind. But since we don't have time to read all that section, and some of it was covered this morning, we're going to start with the section on page 169, that is rebirth, past and future lives. And I should say also that some people use the word rebirth and reincarnation synonymously, but other people say that they have different meanings. So if you're ever talking with somebody about it, make sure that you both have the same meaning. Because some people say rebirth is just the process of an ordinary being reborn. And they say that reincarnation, I'm not quite sure how they define it, but it's more like, actually I don't know how they define it, but it's just different than rebirth. Yeah, it's not the view I hold, so I don't know it so well. But, here when we're talking about, it's always safe to use the word rebirth, whereas when you use, I know what they say. They say reincarnation sounds like you're talking about a soul that is is manifesting or appearing again. And since Buddhism refutes the existence of some kind of permanent soul, then they say reincarnation, we should not speak of it. But like I said, other people use rebirth and reincarnation simultaneously. And the way we use it, rebirth, it's not referring, there's no soul or permanent or substantial self that gets reborn. Okay? So, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I've heard like the Dalai Lama and some of the sort of the advanced lamas that are reborn.
Mm-hmm.
They refer to them as reincarnates, saying that they choose.
Yes.
In bodhisattvas, they can choose whether to come back to samsara or not, whereas we are impelled by our karma.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would agree with that. Or
Yeah.
Okay. So is it okay to call them reincarnates?
Within the Tibetan tradition, yes, we call them reincarnated, because but again, there's no soul, there's no self.
No, of course not.
Yeah, but I'm just warning you that not all Buddhist traditions see reincarnation as meaning the same thing as rebirth.
Right.
Okay?
Thanks.
Good. Okay, so rebirth, past and future lives. The mind of each individual forms its own continuum, with one moment of mind producing the next moment of mind. Okay? So an impermanent phenomena, the mind is produced by causes that precede it, or each moment of mind is produced by the causes that precede it. The substantial cause of one moment of mind, and here substantial cause means the main cause that actually transforms into the resultant next moment. So saying substantial cause doesn't mean something is a substantial entity. It's just meaning the main thing that transforms into the result. Like the substantial cause of the table is wood, okay? So the substantial cause of this moment of mind was the previous moment of mind, okay? Okay, but it's the previous moment of mind in that same mental continuum, yeah? Although the gross body and gross mind influence each other, they cannot be the substantial cause of each other because they do not share the same nature. So the body is matter, the mind is immaterial. Matter cannot cause something that is formless or immaterial. Yeah, something immaterial like the consciousness can not be the substantial cause of something that is atomic in nature. Okay? Having said that, they can be the cooperative causes of each other, or they could be the conditions for each other, but not the actual thing that transforms into that. Okay? So the body is material in nature, the mind is not. And so Dharmakirti, the great 7th century Indian sage, he said, that which is not a consciousness itself cannot be the substantial cause for another consciousness. Okay? So the body and mind have two different natures, two different continuums. Okay, so this can be understood by 3 principles of causality from Asanga's text, the Compendium of Knowledge. So here he talks about 3 principles of causality. So here we go, dependent arising again, cause and conditions, cause and effect again. You see the theme the whole weekend. This is coming up again and again. Okay, so here are the three principles of causality. One is an effect cannot arise without a cause, and every effect is preceded by its own cause. There is no absolute creator that is the original source of all existence, because such a creator would not have a cause and would have risen causelessly, which is impossible. So that refutes causeless production. Okay? So saying an effect cannot arise without a cause is saying that nothing happens randomly, nothing happens by accident. Whenever you have a produced phenomena that's a result, it came from a cause. And that cause had to be impermanent, because the cause must cease for the result to arise. Okay? The seed ceases for a sprout to arise. Yeah. Now, you might say, well, what about when you bake a cake? Yeah, you have all the ingredients there, and then after you bake the cake, you still have the ingredients. You know, they didn't disappear. Yes, however, they changed form, didn't they? The ingredients before you bake them, the ingredients after you mix them together, they're different. Yeah? And also on that very subtle level, one moment of, like flour, is producing the next moment of flour. Okay? So here, remember I was saying yesterday that the Buddhism really refutes the idea of some kind of absolute permanent creator of the universe. So here it comes right in a Sangha's text. Yeah? Because if there's a permanent creator, then something that's permanent cannot change, so it cannot bring a result. So if there's a permanent creator, it can't do anything, it can't create. Okay? Yeah. Then the second principle, an effect cannot arise from a permanent cause. So this is what I just said. Permanent phenomena do not change, and to produce an effect, change is necessary. The cause must cease for the result to arise. Okay? Then, third principle. A cause must have the potential to produce a particular effect. An effect cannot arise from a discordant cause. Okay, so there has to be a correspondence between the cause and the effect. Daisies cannot grow from tomato seeds. Okay? As the substantial cause of form or matter is previous moments of matter or energy, and the substantial cause of mind is previous moments of mind. Okay? So the last two principles refute cases of impossible production. A permanent cause cannot produce a result, and a discordant cause, in other words, something that does not have the ability to produce a particular result, cannot produce that result. Okay? So we live our life very much according to the idea of cause and effect. Yeah? Somebody was saying yesterday about telling their children the benefits of studying. Okay, why do you tell your kids that? Because you want to produce an effect, and you want the kids to act in a way so that the kids will get a certain result. Yeah. Why do you cook food? Because you want to eat. Yeah. So, everything we're doing in our life, we have a reason because we want to attain a particular result. So a lot of Buddhism is actually learning about, especially when we come to karma, what kind of actions produce what kind of results. And when we learn about that, then we know what kind of actions to engage in that are meritorious, that will bring happy results, and what kind of actions to avoid because they are non-virtuous and will produce unhappy results. Okay, so that this forms, the whole basis for living an ethical life, knowing about cause and effect. And like I said yesterday, the last 3 chapters, there's a huge section in this book about karma. Let me show you how thick it is. Okay, yeah, it's this much. So a good chunk of the thing. So it will answer a lot of your questions about karma. So applying these principles to the arising of consciousness, we find that the sperm and egg, which are the substantial cause of the body, are unsuitable to be the substantial cause of the mind, because the mind is not form. The substantial cause of the sperm and egg can be traced back to the Big Bang, according to a scientific explanation, or to space particles, if we're using the Buddhist paradigm. Okay, in which case the Big Bang would also be the ultimate substantial cause of our mind. Okay, so if let me read the whole sentence without my talking in the middle. The substantial cause of the sperm and the egg can be traced back to the Big Bang. And if the sperm and egg produced consciousness too, then the Big Bang would also be the ultimate substantial cause of our mind. Okay? In this case, consciousness would have been present in the dense matter preceding the Big Bang. Okay? Since it was the ultimate cause of the entire physical universe, everything, rocks, water, fire, and so forth, should be conscious and would experience pleasure and pain. But we would feel quite strange accepting that each and every rock, water molecule, or carbon atom had consciousness and is a living being. Okay? So here His Holiness is talking about the faults, the logical consequences that arise if we assert that the substantial cause of the mind were the sperm and egg of our parents. Okay? Because we could trace the cause of the sperm and the egg back to the Big Bang. And if they were the substantial cause of the mind, then you would have to trace the mind back to the Big Bang, in which case, in all that dense material, there would be consciousness, and then when it exploded, everything that came out of it, all the rocks, all the planets, all the asteroids and things, everything would be a sentient being. And that doesn't make any sense. Okay? So that's what His Holiness is doing here. And this is a standard procedure in Buddhist conversation, that if somebody has a wrong view, you say, okay, well, if we hold to your wrong view, then these undesirable consequences occur. And then the person goes, oh, well, I don't believe in those undesirable consequences. So then they start to question their original premise. Okay? Some of you, are you learning about forming syllogisms in your class? Yeah? Okay. If our mind came from our parents' mind, or if our mind, because some people say that, our mind, the substantial cause was our parents' mind. So we got a little bit of mom's mind, a little bit of dad's mind. Okay. In that case, our parents really lost their minds when they had us. Yeah? Okay? So no, we didn't get part of mom's mind and part of dad's mind, not like that. Okay? But if our mind came from our parents' mind, or if our mind were a collection of different parts of the minds of people who died before our birth, okay, so maybe you have part of, some of the little kids here, maybe you have part of Lee Kuan Yew's mind, maybe you have part of Mao Zedong's mind, maybe you have part of your great-grandfather's mind or great-grandmother's mind. Then who are you? Okay, so we say it's not like that. We don't come from, it's not that we got different parts of the minds of different people. Okay? So, but if we say that, many logical inconsistencies would arise. Because each individual has his or her own mind stream or mental continuum, we can remember events from our past and will experience the results of our own actions, not the results of another person. Okay? So if we look, at our mind stream, today's mind stream is the result of yesterday's mind stream, which is the result of the day before mind stream, and the day before, and the day before. And we can't find any beginning. Okay? So each moment of clarity and cognizance arises from the previous moment of clarity and cognizance, like that. Okay? So because of that consistency, then karma can be carried from one lifetime to the next. If our mind were a collection of different people's minds, then whose karma would we have? It would get very confusing. Also, if there were a permanent soul or a real self, such a soul or self could not pass on the karma because something permanent cannot change. It cannot function. Okay, so the mind stream has to be impermanent, and because of that, karmic seeds can be passed along on it. Okay? It's kind of like, I like the example of a river when we think of the mind stream. Okay? So, the Singapore River? Or the Gaylong River? Yeah. How about the mighty Mississippi? Okay? So the Mississippi, you all know the Mississippi, okay? So you have the Mississippi River. It's a huge, long river, yeah? It has one name, even though it's this huge, long thing. At the source, or the many sources of the river, the water is one thing. And then it goes down and it flows down, and by the time it reaches the Gulf of Mexico, it's full of silt and it makes a delta and it's wide, and now it's also polluted. Okay? But what we can see is, the river is a continuous thing that is changing in each moment. Yeah, even though we call it the Mississippi, no two places or no two moments of the Mississippi are the same. They're always changing. Okay? And so in that's kind of like our mind stream. It's changing moment by moment by moment. Now, if you were to say, what exactly is the Mississippi River? Is it the water? Is it the banks? Is it the bottom? Is it the silt? What is the Mississippi River? You couldn't pinpoint one thing that it is, could you? It's all those things put together, and all those things are changing every moment. Okay? So, in the same way, our mental continuity is going on like that from one moment to the next. And we have many different kinds of mental states, different mental factors, yeah? But they're all going along, and there's no permanent self or soul holding the whole thing together. And we cannot find in that flow something that we can isolate and just call the mind or the person. Okay? Because it's changing all the time. Changing, changing, changing. You drop a leaf in at the source of the Mississippi, it's going to float along. Yeah? But it's different by the time it gets to the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah? But the water can carry that leaf along. So in the same way, if we do an action like which plants a seed on the mental continuum in one life, that mental continuum can carry it along into the next life, and it will ripen there. Okay. Okay, so because each individual has his or her own mind stream or mental continuum, we can remember events from our past. If we were made up of different parts of different people's minds, we couldn't remember our own past. Okay? And we will experience the result of our own actions, not the actions of another person. Yeah? So, experiencing our own results, remembering our own past, would be impossible if our mind were composed of fragments of our parents' or other people's minds. Instead, we should be able to remember their past. So if your mind, is part Lee Kuan Yew and part Mao Zedong and part your grandpa and part your grandmother, then you should be able to remember things from the past of all those people. No, that doesn't work. We should also have the knowledge they have accumulated thus far in their lives, and our emotional makeup would closely resemble theirs. But we see this is not the case. Okay? So we see even within a family, parents and children can have completely different personalities, can't they? Yeah, totally different. So it's if we in some way are similar to our parents, it's because we watched their behavior and we were conditioned by their behavior, okay? But it's not because some part of them came into us. In my family, I'm quite the oddball. Yeah? Nobody else in the family is Buddhist. Nobody else in the family is even religious in their own religion. Yeah? It's like, I don't know where I came from, but a completely different personality than my siblings and my parents. Yeah? Very different interests. Okay. Mm-hmm. If an external creator or prior intelligence created the universe, that creator would not have a cause because it would have preceded all existence. So if before anything was created, you had a creator, then you have to ask, where does the creator come from? Because if existence only starts when the creator created, then did the creator exist before creating? If they existed before creating, then the beginning was not the beginning because they existed before it. Okay. So you see, you run into all these kind of logical problems when you start asking questions about there being some kind of creator deity or prior intelligence. Without a cause, how could such a creator arise? If it did not arise due to a cause, it would be permanent and could not create effects such as the universe and the beings in it. A permanent creator cannot change, and creation involves change. If we say that the creator was both permanent and impermanent, that too is contradictory, because one thing cannot simultaneously possess two opposite traits. Yeah. If something's permanent, it's not impermanent. If something's impermanent, it's not permanent. So nothing can be both of them. Yeah. If we said the creator or prior intelligence alternated between being permanent and impermanent, that too would present problems. A permanent phenomena would need a cause to become impermanent, and no such cause exists because a permanent phenomena isn't dependent on causes. Further questions also arise. Why would a creator or prior intelligence create suffering? That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. Someone once asked me if neural pathways could be the means by which karma was imprinted on the mind stream, such that the deeds of one life would influence events in another. This is not possible because brain activity ceases at death. The brain does not come with us into the next life. Applying these principles of causality to matter and consciousness, rebirth can be established without having to resort to blind faith or reliance on scriptural authority. The only possible cause of our mind is a previous moment of mind, the mind of the person we were in our previous life. Okay. So, from, how we look at it, each moment of mind arose from the previous moment of mind, just as each moment of our body arose from yesterday's body and the previous body and so on, okay? Now, so we can trace the physical cause of our body, we can trace the mental cause of our consciousness, but what happens when you get to the time of birth, okay, when the baby comes out of the mother's womb? We can remember, a lot of our life going back, yeah, but there's a lot of our life that we forget. Can you remember everything you did yesterday? Yeah. We can't even remember where we put our car keys 10 minutes ago. So just because we can't remember something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah. So we trace the body and mind back to the time of birth. Yeah. The substantial cause of the body, of the baby's body when it comes out of the womb, was the fetus, the body of the fetus inside the womb. And that can be traced back to when the sperm and egg conjoined. Yeah? And then it can be traced back before that, because the sperm and egg came from all the food that our parents ate. Meanwhile, our consciousness, one moment of mind, arising due to the previous moment, we trace that back to the moment of conception. Yeah. And what was the cause of that first moment of consciousness where the sperm and the egg and the consciousness joined and the new life started? The sperm and egg came from our parents. Where did that first moment of consciousness come from? It couldn't come without a cause, because it's something that is impermanent, so it must have been produced by a cause. It couldn't be produced by the sperm and egg, because the sperm and egg is the nature of material and the consciousness is not. Okay. The only thing we can point to as the substantial cause of that first moment of mind in the womb in this lifetime is the previous moment of mind. Yeah, just like every other moment of mind came from the previous moment, so too the first moment of this life came from a previous moment of mind. That mind was a mind in the bardo, the intermediate stage, and that moment of mind traces back to the previous moment in the bardo, into the previous moment, into the mind of somebody who died, the last moment of consciousness in the previous body, which traces back to the moment of mind previous to that, and so on and so forth. Okay? So you see, by understanding the nature of mind, that it's something that is not produced by matter, that is not material in nature, and something that is impermanent, so it must have causes, then the only thing we can point to as the cause of the first moment of consciousness in this life was a previous moment of consciousness in the intermediate stage, and that comes from the last moment of consciousness in a previous life. Okay? So this is the logical reasoning that proves the existence of rebirth. Yeah? That the consciousness doesn't just start out of nowhere because it needs a cause. And at the end of our life, the consciousness doesn't just stop because one moment of mind produces the next moment of mind, which produces the next moment of mind. So the consciousness at the time of death is going to produce another moment of mind, in the next bardo, which will lead to the next life. Okay, makes sense to you? Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah, just plain old cause and effect. Okay, human beings have long discussed the beginning of the universe and of the mind in particular. From a Buddhist perspective, there is no beginning to either of these because all functioning things arise from their causes. Those causes arise from their causes, and so on, back ad infinitum. Positing a first moment of consciousness is logically untenable. If there were a first moment, it would either arise without a cause or arise from a discordant cause, and neither of these is possible. Okay? So somebody says, okay, one moment of mind came from the previous moment of mind, and that came from the previous moment of mind. But where was the beginning? Then we say, there was no beginning. And the person says, but there has to be a beginning. And we say, why? Why does there have to be a beginning? Okay, and you use the example of the number line. Remember in math class your number line? Yeah, you have 0, -1, -2, -3, +1, +2, plus. Both ends of the number line go on infinitely, don't they? You can't find a first moment of the negative numbers. You can't find a last moment of the positive numbers because each one gives rise to the next number. So if somebody says there has to be a beginning, you say, okay, please find it. Yeah? If you say there has to be a beginning, please find it. And you have to find it a beginning that makes sense. not a made-up fake beginning. But you see, when we're using reasoning, yeah, everything goes back infinitely, everything goes forward infinitely. Actually, our ignorance goes back infinitely, as does our consciousness. Going forward into the future, our consciousness goes forth endlessly. There's nothing to stop the flow of consciousness. However, there is something that will stop ignorance. What stops ignorance? Wisdom. Okay? So if we grow our wisdom, we can stop the ignorance. So ignorance has no beginning, but it has an end. Why does it have an end? Because it can be overcome. Why can it be overcome? Because it apprehends the opposite of reality. And anything that is out of touch with reality can be eliminated by generating wisdom. Okay? So this is quite important, to really think about and develop conviction in. And when you do, you really see the beauty of the Buddha's teachings. That the Buddha, he didn't just say, okay, I taught all this stuff, you got to believe it. Yeah, if you want to be a good Buddhist, you have to believe all this. Buddha didn't say that. Buddha said, you think about it. You check it out. You see if it holds water when you apply logic. You practice it. You see if it makes sense, if it produces the results it says. Okay, you don't just believe. Because if we just believe because the Buddha said so, when somebody else comes along with some other idea, then we go, oh, that idea sounds good, that person says that, there was a yellow and black spotted monster in the southern direction that created the world, and that sounds really good. Yeah, I believe in that yellow and black spotted monster. I will worship it, and then I'll get happiness. Yeah? People in this world come up with all sorts of explanations for things. Yeah? The trick is what explanations can be proven by reasoning. Okay? And what explanations are fanciful? Or, to put it in the language of the US president, what explanations are fake news? Okay? There's a lot of fake news out of there. He's right on that account. There's a lot of fake news in the world. People with all sorts of crazy ideas. Okay? Now, of course, we don't go around telling those people that they have crazy ideas. And we don't go around telling them they're going to go to hell because they believe those things. Okay? We don't do that. Yeah? In fact, His Holiness, Buddhism is really quite sagacious in this respect, because we say everybody's different. Everybody has a different way of thinking, so different things are going to be more suitable for one person's mind or another person's mind. And so for some people, believing in an external creator, it gives them great emotional comfort. They don't check out their belief using logic, but they base it on feeling comfortable. Oh, there's a creator who oversees everything. And our world's pretty chaotic, but the creator oversees it. Okay? And so, people believe that, and that can be a belief that is very helpful for them if it leads them to keep good ethical conduct. Yeah? And so if they have the view that that Creator said, you know, don't kill and don't steal and be kind to other living beings, and then that person says, okay, this is the wish of the Creator, then I will do it, then that's beneficial for that person. It helps them to not create negative karma and to create virtue. So we don't want to damage somebody else's faith such that they just say, oh, well, okay, nothing exists, so I can do anything I want, and my actions don't bear any result. Because that kind of nihilistic thought is really damaging to somebody. So it's better that they believe there's a Creator and that the Creator, you know, wants them to be good people, and so they are. Okay? So as Buddhists, you know, when we debate with people, this is important, with people who really want to penetrate and understand the truth, then we debate, and throughout Buddhist history, beginning in India, you know, continuing to this present day, there's debate where you really discuss different views and you see which views make sense and which views hold water and which ones don't. Okay? So with people who are really interested in discovering the nature of reality, we have that kind of discussion. Yeah? But with people whose views are kind of rigid and a little bit shaky in terms of logic, we just tell them, you know, be a kind person, your religion teaches you to be kind, to be ethical, not to harm others. That's very good, please do that. Okay? Yeah? So, you know, at the Abbey, we have, once in a while, we get people coming to the Abbey. We live in the middle of nowhere, you know? Really, in the middle of nowhere. And people come there, you know, and ring the doorbell, and, you know, can we tell you the good news? And we, you know, we say, oh, we're a Buddhist monastery. We have our own religious beliefs, you know. If you follow the beliefs of your religion, you will become a good person. So please do that, and please respect our beliefs, because we also keep good ethical conduct. We practice love and compassion and forgiveness. And so, bye-bye. You know, we don't invite them in for a long discussion, because these people don't want to have a discussion. They want to convince you of their thing, okay? So, you know, that's a very good way to handle it when it happens. You just say, I have my beliefs, you have your beliefs, you practice kindness, ethical conduct, I do too, bye. Okay? I have some kind of karma where I frequently wind up sitting on plane rides next to somebody who wants to convert me. You know, can you believe it? I look like this. Yeah. I'm clearly a religious person, either that or I'm from Mars, and they still want to convert me. So, in one flight, there was this man, you know, sitting next to me, and we started talking. And he said, you know, I feel out of compassion for you because I don't want you to go to hell. No, seriously, that's what he said. I don't want you to go ahead of hell, so I have to tell you about Jesus, you know? Because if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell, and I don't want that to happen to you. And I said to him, you know, I try my best to keep good ethical conduct, not stealing, not lying, not killing, you know, not sleeping around, not speaking harsh words. You know, I do my best to do that. I can't imagine that if you say your God is compassionate, that he would send me to hell even though I lived a good life. And he said, yes, but you still have to believe in Jesus. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Finally, I said to him, you know, I need respect. I have my beliefs. I respect your beliefs. I'm not trying to convert you to Buddhism. I don't tell you that you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in the Buddha. Yeah. So please, you know, do not tell me these kinds of things, because we have different beliefs. I respect yours. You need to respect mine. And I said it in that kind of tone of voice, like, I mean business. So the conversation ended there. Thank goodness. Then, as we were about to land, he said something like, maybe I spoke too much. So I think my comment to him made him think, you know? Made him think. Because if your God is compassionate, then they should have compassion for everybody. Yeah. If your God created everything, they also created Buddhism. Yeah. And if your God tells you to respect other beings and be compassionate, you should be, you know? So I'm hoping it had some kind of good effect on him, yeah? Okay. That was different than sitting on another flight. Oh, sitting next to some guy. I was flying it was years ago, from Singapore to the States, so it was a long flight. And he was telling me about flying saucers and all sorts of other creatures from other universes, so much so that the flight attendant came and asked me if I would like to be reseated. Yeah. She knew what was going on, you know. Okay, I'll stop with the stories there. I have more of them. Okay. Oh, but let me tell you one more. Okay, because this is how you respond to questions. Okay. So we have a Mennonite church that's a few miles away from us, and they were having an open house. I like meeting people from other religions, so me and a few of the other nuns, we went there, and we were talking with them. And I happen to really respect Mennonites because they do a lot of peace work, and they really advocate nonviolence. So we have a lot in common, and I respect that doctrine in them. So I was talking to the pastor's wife, and, you know, she knew we were Buddhist, and she said, do you believe in God? Yeah. So I said, I didn't answer that question. Yeah. I said, or I might have said, you know, many people see God as the principle of love and compassion, and as Buddhists, we practice love and compassion also. Yeah. We think love and compassion are really important. Forgiveness is important. We practice ethical conduct. We have a whole set of precepts, you know, and different levels of precepts, and, you know, actions that we were taught to abandon, virtuous actions that we're encouraged to do. So we practice ethical conduct, just like you practice ethical conduct, just like you practice loving kindness. you know. And then I pointed out, we too really value nonviolence, and that's something the Mennonites value as well. And so I spoke about the things that our religions had in common. I didn't answer the question, do we believe in God? I spoke about what we had in common, and the pastor's wife was very happy. Yeah? She was nodding her head, she liked what she heard, and so it created a good feeling. Yeah? And we've also become friends with, there's 2 Catholic nuns that live maybe half an hour away from us. So we've become friends with them as well. They visit us, we visit them, and we have really good discussions because they're people who are really interested in, in talking about spiritual ideas and principles. And also, both parties being women in religions that are patriarchal, we have a lot to talk about. And being practitioners in religions that talk about social engagement, working for the poor, helping the needy, and so on, as a Mahayana tradition, that's very much at our core. And the Catholic sisters, very much what they practice as well. So we have a lot in common. We have a very good relationship with them. No? Okay, it's 4 o'clock. And I told you so many stories that I haven't finished this section. Okay, let me just skim it and see if there's, Okay. So there's a lot in here. I recommend that you read the book. But His Holiness says here, another factor that supports the existence of rebirth is that people remember past lives. Although I have no clear memories of my previous lives, according to my mother and members of the search party who identified the 14th Dalai Lama, when I was very young, I spoke quite clearly about my past life. Yeah? Sometimes I have had the same dreams. They are vague recollections of some previous lives, as a Tibetan, an Indian, and on one occasion, Egyptian. But then the memory faded. Okay? And then he says, not remembering our previous lives doesn't mean they didn't happen. Okay? They still happen. And then he says, there are accounts of many people who remember their previous lives, and that has been verified. I heard of an Indian girl who described her previous life. She was a young girl in that previous life and died suddenly, so the natural process of dissolution of the levels of consciousness did not take place, which may be a factor in her being able to remember her previous life. Being very young, her memory was clear, whereas older children may not remember their previous lives because their grosser level mind is fully developed and their subtle mind has become inactive. Okay? And I remember him talking about this Indian girl, and she was remembering being another person in a nearby village, and she's described that nearby village and her previous family so much that her parents finally took her there, and they located the previous family that she had been born into before. Okay. Also, another story that is very interesting. Another friend of mine is a Theravada monk, and he lived in Sri Lanka for a while. And so he told me that one of his friends, his Dharma friends, was an adult at the time they were friends. But when his friend had been a child, he had chanted in Pali that nobody had taught him before. And what really caught the attention of my friend was the chants that the child did were not exactly like the current Pali chants. And since my friend, was a scholar, he knew that the words of different chants changed over time, the pronunciation changed over time. So the fact that what his friend chanted when he was 3 and 4 years old wasn't exactly like the present Pali chants made a lot of sense to him. And then his friend told him one day that he has kind of vague memories of being alive, maybe when Buddha Gosa was alive. Buddha Gosa was one of the very well-respected Pali scholars and practitioners. And, because he had this memory, he could chant perfect Pali. And so my friend was thinking, he may have been one of the Banakas who, people in the early days who memorized different scriptures, because the transmission of Buddhist scriptures in the early days was an oral transmission, that he might have been one of those Banakas who, memorized the scriptures and then taught them to the next generation and so on. And so the name of his friend, or the name of his name when he was a boy, I assume it's his same name, but it was Dhamma-runa, D-A-M-M-A, like Dhamma, and Runa, R-U-A-N. And I Googled that, and there are recordings of the little boy chanting Pali, and nobody had taught him Pali. When I lived at Kopan Monastery, there was one young Rinpoche. He was maybe about 10 years old at the time, and different people told me that when he was sleeping, he would be reciting texts that he hadn't memorized in this life, but that he clearly remembered from previous lives. So there's many kind of accounts like that. And, if you think about them, they can illustrate how rebirth occurs. Okay, now, I didn't give you any time for questions and answers this morning or today, but I don't feel guilty because you didn't talk to me. Okay, so we're going to end for today, and I hope you've benefited somewhat and will take home what you've heard and really think about it so that it will stimulate your Dharma practice and stimulate your understanding of the Dharma. So we'll dedicate the merit, and then afterwards we have the mani pills, right? So if people would like the mani pills, then I'll be handing them out up here. These are pills that were made in Dharamsala out of relics and out of herbal substances. And then the monks and nuns and lay people bless them by reciting Om Mani Padme Hum millions and millions and millions of times. Okay, so they come from Dharamsala. When you'll get some with a little slip that says how to use them. But basically you can take them now, you can save them for later, you can use them yourself, you can share them with others. And it's good when you take them, you can swallow them whole, you can dissolve them in water, you can dissolve them in your mouth. But however you take them, you should think of Chenrezig and think of compassion. And say Om Mani Padme Hum, and transform your heart into a heart of compassion. Because the pills Om Mani Padme Hum, they're called mani, so it's encouraging us to be compassionate. Okay, so these kinds of, when we talk about holy water and holy pills, okay, there's some blessing in the pills and the water, but for it to have influence on us, our mind has to be in the right state. So don't see these things as inherently existent blessed substances that you just take and then you can think whatever you want and criticize people and, like that. For them to affect us, we have to have a virtuous state of mind. We have to contemplate compassion, contemplate wisdom. Yeah? Okay? And if we do that, then we're doing our part so that then we are open to the Buddha's enlightening influence. Okay? Okay. So we'll dedicate. And then there's more talks later this week and into next week. So you're welcome to come to those. And I know that you're also having a Nune next weekend. So that's very good. I really rejoice in people doing Nune and creating merit. Yeah. And I'll try and sneak in a little talk to inspire you while you're hungry. No, actually, my experience doing Nune is I don't get hungry. Once I've taken that precept, I don't get hungry, Okay, let's dedicate. This merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Very good. Quite nice to be here with everybody at ABC again. So, practice hard, study hard, yeah, sleep well. But not the sleep of ignorance. Okay.
Thank you once again, Venerable Chodron, for your precious teachings. We hope that everyone have enjoyed and benefited from Venerable's teachings. Venerable will be giving a series of other public talks in Singapore until December 18. So if you want to have the dates, you can go to the level 1 stall. The volunteers can give you the leaflets for the dates and venues. And you can also sign up with them to join the Dharma group that meets every Saturday morning to watch and discuss Venerable's teachings. And Venerable has already mentioned, if you would like to receive money pills, please stick around here. And also, please do not request for individual photos with Venerable as time is limited. Instead of everyone bowing to Venerable individually when making offerings, so let's all offer 3 bows to Venerable together now.